Hi guys, welcome to High Story. Here's my dog Lego. So he wants to learn a lot about history as you guys do. So let's start with a myth that includes an animal, shall we? So if I asked you to name the most famous story in mythology that you know of, what would you say? No, it's not about Lego. You would probably say the Trojan horse. Today, let's have an interesting point of view to the Trojan horse, but in case we forgot the details of the story, let's go back a little bit, some 3,300 years, and sum up what had happened. The Trojan prince Paris kidnapped Helen. Helen, remember, the wife of King Agamemnon. And then she comes to Troy, and the life goes on, everybody's happy. Then the Greeks come together and siege Troy for 10 years. As a result, they could not take the city, and they presumed they evacuated the beach that they landed, boarded their ships, and anchored in an island called Tenedos. When the Trojans came to the shore, they seen the Greek army who left, but there was a gift on the shore. That was the famous Trojan horse. In fact, there were some 40 soldiers, one of the best ones, hiding in the womb of the horse. So they pulled the horse into their city, and at night, during their festival of the end of the war, the Greek heroes just came out of the horse, opened the gates to the other friends of the Greeks, and then they took the city. So that's how the story happened. Metaphorically, today we use the Trojan horse as like a stratagem to be able to go into the defense system of the enemy and then just collapsed. But why do we all know this story? I mean, anywhere else you go on Earth, we talk about Trojan horse. And the wooden symbols are just sold as souvenirs most over the places. There's even a virus that we know of, the Trojan virus. In our approach, it wasn't an horse at all. So how do we know about the Trojan War? The war took place in the Bronze Age, and we don't have many records dating back to those periods. So actually, it's the Homer who wrote about the Trojan War, first of all. Actually, if the war was in 1200s BCE, Homer was walking around in 750 BCE. In that case, there's a time frame between them. It was an oral tradition, so the war and the Trojan horse thing has been told from one to another, and Homer was the first one actually to disseminate the seed to the whole Mediterranean area. In fact, when he was doing it, for some of the words and stuff, there were different fashions going on. And Trojan horse, according to me, was one of them. Horse in ancient Greek is hippo. You all know the word actually, because whenever I say hippodrome, most of us will easily figure out that it was a horse race track, because dromos is the track and hippo is the horse, so it's a racehorse track. So when Homer said hippo, he may not be actually trying to explain the gift that was left on the beach by the Greeks for Trojans. He might have meant a boat. So I know it sounds weird at first, but once we say a story like bajillion times, it becomes a fact, a truism. So I don't think Trojan horse is an exception. When he said the Greeks left an hippo on the beach of the Trojans, he didn't mean the actual horse that we were thinking of. In the ancient Greek, again, the word hippoi or hippo was used for a boat. They said, let's jump on the hippoi, the waves of the hippoi. So it was a horse ship that you can see now in how different it looks. In the bow, there's a huge horse head that's carved. It's a tribute ship used by the Phoenicians throughout the centuries. So Trojans, seeing the horse head ship, assumed that the Greeks had left, and as a tribute, they left a ship full of gifts, not knowing that under the gifts there were the Greek soldiers hiding. So that's one side of the story. Let's go on. In the Iliad that Homer wrote, actually Homer didn't write anything, by the way. It was just an oral tradition that he kept on, don't forget. But in the Iliad, there's nothing to do with the Trojan horse. Although the book is all about the Trojan War, It doesn't give anything about the end of the war. But then comes the Odyssey, the second book of Homer. That's the journey of Odysseus going back home to Ithaca. You remember, it takes like 10 years. Maybe we should have an episode about that. So what Odysseus figured out is the Trojan horse. He said that let's put the ship on the beach, assuming that we are just disembarked and left the war. And then that's why in the book Odysseus, Homer talks about the Trojan horse. He said they left the hippoi on the beach. So let's decide if it was a ship or a horse. You are walking on the beach and there's a huge, let's say 100 feet tall wooden horse left. How would you pull it, like maybe 2 miles into your city with its 4 legs? You have to build wheels and stuff to put underneath. Whereas if it were a boat that was left with the wooden horse head, then just 2 round wooden things would be helpful enough to pull the entire boat into your city. And remember, the city gates were not as big as we assume today. We're talking about the Bronze Age Troy. So it would be much harder to pull the horse into their city in comparison to a boat. And Poseidon was their main god. So Poseidon and the horse head ships were all related to each other. So that's how it all happened. So living in the ancient world, when I say ancient, it's the actually Bronze Age in this case. If you, let's say, lost a war and you would like to pay a tribute, you just cannot send any boat for the winner's side. Let's say you pay a tribute every year, once in a year, and then in this case you have to use a hippoi, I mean a boat with a horse head, to pay your stuff. Why? Because then when the winner sees a boat with a horse head approaching their harbor, they won't attack it, because knowing that it's a peaceful boat that comes from the other side. So again, to make up the whole story once again, Trojans, imagine you're a Trojan. You're walking on the beach that you suffered for 10 years, because being under siege for 10 years is not an easy case. And you see the whole invading army has left, but just one gift over there on the beach, just waiting for you. I know it's very hard to change your point of view, especially if you heard and just read about this story like bajillion times. However, myth and fact are different issues. In the times of Homer, Homeric times, he's the one who started the Western literature, by the way, so he's not anybody, I know. But still, these stories are allegoric, so they try to teach us something by giving like a well fact known. In this case, once the people of the ancient world heard about the Trojan horse story, they probably got it in the boat form. But for us, as like 3,000 years past, we comprehend it as a horse, horse. So please try to relax, and we can just, again, falsify everything that we know of in order to find the truth. Thanks for watching. See you in the next episode.